Hello again, I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching. Today we're going to do another watercolor painting, and I hope you like this one. It's one of a bridge that's just over some water, a small creek with some mountains in the background, a little bit of foggy area in the background, and so I'm not even sure where it is. I got this photograph from an artist that I bought a number of photographs from, and kind of liked it. I thought I might be able to make a nice watercolor today, so that's what we're going to do. So let me show you what I have here. Have my sketch, and have it on Fabriano Artistico 300-pound watercolor paper, which is what I've been using lately. And you can see it has a nice little bridge there, and got some ability to put some distance in here in the background, and foreground. A lot of this is water here, so we have quite a bit of the painting is water. You heard me talk before about what the painting is about. This has a nice bridge in it, which will be sort of a focal point, but the water is going to have some nice shadows. Hopefully I'm going to try to put in some rocks that are under the water, so we'll be able to experiment with that today. And other than that, it's a pretty straightforward scene, and I hope you like it. The brushes we're going to use are the same set of brushes that I've talked about before. It's the Sterling Edwards set that I have, of a small 1-inch bristle brush, a 1.5-inch bristle brush. Have 3 rounds, a number 8, number 12, and number 4 round. Have 2 flats here, a 1/2 inch, a 1-inch flat, and I've added an American Painter script liner number. It's really number 1, I believe. Yes. So the sketch was put on with something called a pastel pencil, which is from General Pencil Company. So it has some pastel color in it, so it has a little bit of pigment on here. The nice thing is you can see it very well. The bad news is that it may blend a little bit with my watercolors, which more than I want. But this painting is going to be fairly impressionistic, and I'm going to just see if I can blot some of this off a little bit so that it's not so much pigment on there. And see, I'm picking up some on this paper towel here as I rub it. So that'll just get rid of some of the dust. It's blurring. I left it nice and sharp so you could see it as we started. But I want to get some of this off of here now so it's not too intrusive to the painting process. Okay, so I got quite a bit of dust off of here with that, but so it won't mix too much with the paint. All right, I'm ready to go. Maybe I need to explain the paints again one time, so let me run through those very quickly here. We have neutral tint, cyan blue, ultramarine violet, crimson lake, garnet lake, cad red, burnt sienna, raw sienna, yellow ochre, cupric green, golden lake, limon yellow, primary yellow, burnt umber, sap green, Auvergne orange, primary red magenta, and still to grain brown. So that's the paints, and told you about the brushes, told you about the sketch, and we're ready to go. I'm going to get some clear water here and wet just a little bit of the top of this painting where the sky is going to be. There's not a lot of sky in this, so sky is just sort of right up in this area here. Sort of comes down and blends in with some of these behind these trees. So we'll just sort of wet this down and throw in some nice soft paint back there. We're going to have a lot of reflections in the water, so I'll be wetting that down shortly as well. And we'll be putting some nice looking reflections in there as the painting goes on. I want to make sure that we're aligned properly here with our video. I think we're pretty straight. It might be a little bit crooked, but hopefully you can see that okay. All right, in the background I'm going to just pick up some raw sienna to start with, and put a little raw sienna down. A lot of painters use raw sienna in their skies. It makes a nice little warms it up very nicely. Don't need a whole lot more than that. That's about all there is to this sky. Might have a little bit come down here just because we do have some, picked up a little red in that brush. That's all right. Turn it into a warm peachy color. All right, so that's our sky down to about there. Over here on the right side, we've got, I'm using 1-inch flat brush. And let me clean this out. Get rid of this paper towel. I'll probably try to use this big brush as long as I can. And I'm going to get just a little of this ultramarine blue and violet mixture here. And see if we can start something for these mountains in the distance back here. Just run some over here to make sure the paper's covered over there. I'm going to start picking up a little brown now, a little still to grain brown. Mix that with this blue color and we'll start getting a sort of a grayish color. Now the photograph, should have mentioned it earlier. I do have a photograph of this that I've sort of laid out a value map that helps me try to remember where the values are going to be. This area, the top is going to be the lightest, as you can probably guess. And then it gets a little bit darker as we come forward. This could be trees, this could be anything back here in the distance. We're going to put some other colors over it, but right now we'll just kind of leave it at this sort of a mixture of purple and brown. We'll start getting some greens, pick up a little sap green down here maybe. Maybe some of my other yellows will start greening it up a little bit. Now I've got dry paper over here. You can hear it sort of scumbling as I'm pushing the brush. A lot of foliage back here. I'm not going to paint everything that's in this background, but we'll lay down some basic colors here. Get some nice color differentiation going. Mix this up, put a little more up in here. I'm going to cover this with some darker trees and that sort of thing. So I'll just leave it sort of like that. Okay, so I've got a little distance in there that this light color helps us get some distance in this painting. Don't want to mess with it too much, I'll ruin it, which I've told you before. Stay out of there. I have some other colors over here, maybe back in this area. Trees, this is going to be dark green trees over here, so I'll just sort of put a gray layer down underneath it. Okay, pick up a little more still to grain brown, a little more sap green maybe. In here we'll start putting in some colors. Over here, a little bit darker areas. Okay. Now, on the left side, pick up some ochres. I haven't got any ochre in here yet, so let me throw a little ochre in here in some spots. Lots of trees in the distance. A little ultra blue will help darken up some of these. Pick up some more ochre, some more green. Sometimes you can get a nice looking top of a pine tree by taking one of these flat brushes and just sort of laying it down like that and letting it get a point touch. The paper's a little bit too wet right now for that, but in some drier areas it will make a nice looking pine tree. Something like that. So it's probably a little too dark in there, but we want some variation. We want to change the color, change the value, change the size. Don't leave everything looking the same. Okay, over here on the left, let me come back and get a few more darker colors over here. Painting around this big tree right here. Negative painting, that's called. So we got this bank that comes down here on this side, so try to make brush strokes, if you can see them at all, try to make them point down toward the water. Step back, get a look at that, see if it's got some depth in it. Yeah, I see some good contrasts. Okay. Over here, let's kind of skimp this down. Okay. A glob of paint right here that we can pick up. Okay. Well, that's gone pretty fast so far. We do have, I don't know if it's still too wet, maybe, I don't know. Have some of the mountains sticking through back there. Has a little bit of a brownish cast to it. I'll see if I can get some of that to show up back there. Right in this area here. It's a little bit too wet maybe, but I'll see if I can get some thicker paint. Lay on top of there. Okay, adding a little color back there helps. And in this area, I'm going to put some more, give me some trees that look like we have a lot of trees sitting in here in some of these areas. Just sort of pull down some vertical brush strokes. Where that's wet, that'll blend, and where it's not too wet, it'll It will paint hard edges. Ochre maybe. There's a ton of trees and all kinds of stuff back in here. So we'll just hit some spots. You're going to see a tree appear here shortly. Without even painting the tree, you might see it appear. So I'm getting a bunch of blossoms and running over here in this area. Remember my little story about blossoms, what causes them? You put wet paint over paint that's a little drier, have more water in your brush than you have on the paper, and it starts leaving these interesting little blossom shapes, they're called. Sometimes they're called cauliflowers, backruns. And they add some interest to the painting. You don't have to get them all out of there. But sometimes they add a pleasing contrast to what's going on here. Okay, I'll pick up some yellow and start putting in some. Trees might be a little closer. The more of these layers that we can put in, the more depth we put in this painting. So the more times I can do this and let it dry and paint over it, the more depth you'll see. Okay, I've spent a good bit of time on that middle ground there. A little bit too much contrast here when I step back and look at it. This area where this mountain color is, I need to sort of, well, I'm going to put a tree there. That's the reason it looks that way. Okay, I have a tree drawn in. Okay, won't mess with it. See here, maybe I can feather the top of these a little bit. Some soft edges here and there. Okay, I'll keep messing with that. It's going to get worse, so I better just stop for a minute. Let that dry. Let me look at this. Start looking at this bridge. It's sort of a gray color, and it's got a really dark shadow underneath it. Pick up some neutral tint, ultra blue, with a little bit of still to grain brown. We'll gray that blue down. So there's some colors for the bridge. Now I'm painting, nothing's wet right now. This bridge is all dry, so I'm going to just sort of put in the top with this big, fat 1-inch brush. Like that. Change the color, add a little purple to it, violet. Didn't get much violet in there. So I'm not just painting one big swoop across there to paint this entire bridge. I'm changing the color, adding some interest, painting around the bush that's going to be over here with the corner of my brush. Go back, put some different color in there. Get some blue. Over here on the right side, we're going to have some very bright bushes sitting right in here. They're going to stand out, hopefully, if I paint it right. So, still using a big old brush. Okay, like that. And we have this bank starts down here on the right side, left, both sides. We have a bank that starts down here, starts turning dark. Purple in there. It's going to be dark under here, pretty much very dark under this bridge. And the darkest part of all is this area over here. I don't have it dark enough there, but let's start with this. We're going to have some, pull in a little bit of maybe some reddish color to show some sun reflection back there underneath it. Redness, brown up a little bit. Back in here. Probably can't even see that. Ultra blue and burnt umber make a fairly dark. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for back there, a little darker. Okay. Left a little area here for blending. Can show some light coming through back there. That's looking okay. It's a little hard to see on the camera, I noticed, but it looks okay here. All right, we've got more rocks over here on the right side. In this area, a lot of rocky stuff going on here. The bottom, so I'm just putting this all in sort of one color. I'll come back and use my corner of a credit card and scrape out some highlights on those rocks. I don't know if I've done that for you before or not, but some of the rocks are rounded, some are flat, some are angular. A good way to put some rocks in is to take a credit card or piece of card, something like this, and when there's a certain amount of wetness, if it's too wet, it will fill back in, and if it's too dry, nothing will happen, but if it's about right, you'll be able to scrape out some highlights on the top of these rocks. There's a little highlight. Put one over here. So you see it's drying fairly quickly. It's a good way to make the rocks look very interesting. Okay, don't want to do too much of that in that area. I'm going to do a little more down here in the foreground, but that's a good technique to know. Just take an old credit card, one you've destroyed or not using anymore, and either cut it up or use it as it is, and just use it in your, put it in your painting kit, and use it for things like this. Let's see if I can put a tree in here. This tree's going to run right up the top of the paper. Okay, over here we got a few more trees that try to make these trees so they're not, you don't want to make them parallel with the edge of the paper. Try to put some curve in them or some angle. It's never a good idea to put vertical trees right next to the where the frame goes. So you want to put some angle in these things. Something like that. We'll come back and hit that again with some more paint on top shortly, but right now that's enough to put some soft edges in here so that we don't end up with a hard edge at the bottom. Soft edge by just putting a little water on your brush and just touching the bottom. It's a right tree there. We've got trees to go there. Over here, this tree on the left side. Start out with some burnt umber and maybe some ochre. Some of these colors, maybe a little bit of burnt sienna to redden it up a little bit, so it's not exactly the same color. So here we've got just notice the color change, so I didn't make it all one flat color going up there. Making this one have more gray in this one, a little more gray and blue. Change it so that it's got some variation. A little water. Blend it. Sun is coming from the left generally, so the right side of these things should be darker. I have to get that darker yet because it's got to have, you got to be able to see it next to this bridge so we don't have any mistake about what's tree and what's bridge. All right. These branches in the top look a little too heavy. Once you put them on, it's hard to undo it with watercolor. It's possible, but not easy. We could come back and put in some other fine branches if we want later, but let's just leave it like this for now. Left side of this ought to be a little bit lighter. I'm going to just put in some clear water and lighten up the left side a little bit so we have a little reflection in there. Not reflection, but where the sun's hitting it. Okay. Okay, I'm just sort of stamping with this brush. I've got the bristles. When bristles spread apart like that, sometimes they can make a nice tree trunk sticking out if you're painting negatively. I've done that before. So I'll just put a few dark colors back in there and make it look, it's all part of a big forest, a lot of stuff going on. All right. This area under the bridge is light and airy. I'm going to see if I can brighten it up a little bit with some yellows and some nice colors back in here to make it look like we've got a lot of sun coming back in this area here. This should be lighter than that. How about lemon yellow? Okay. Change the color, change the value. Don't paint too long with one color. Here we've got that river, that creek does go back in there. So I'm going to let it go back there. A bit of shadow here. Okay. Okay, something like that. Start picking up some yellows and making some more greens here. There's a little bush that's like right in here. It sort of sticks out. There's some more greenery here. It adds the effect of light there. There's a bright one over on the right side, right in here, that's really being hit by a lot of sunlight. So we'll just pop him in right now while we got this yellow in our brush. And put some darker colors behind it to give it a little depth. These adding some blue to this will darken down these yellows and start getting some more, a bit darker foliage here. Put in a little pine tree of some sort here. So I picked up a little darker green color here for some of these trees that are closer in that you can see. Stamp it like that, and then just sort of use the corner, put yourself in some nice looking branches. We're making a symbol for pine trees over here. So these are closer in, so we're going to give them some more definition. See another tree appearing back here. Thanks to negative painting. Paint on both sides of it, and you end up with another little tree or two back there. Come back, get some green, change the color. Don't stick with the same color very long. Where was I? Right in here, yeah. Okay, so we're getting a nice little sort of a focal area over here that's got some nice contrasts. And that's what we're trying for here. Up here, we want to put some really nice darks up there. Paint on one side of this tree, this dark green. I want it to come out on the other side so that you can actually see the tree. A lot of painters make that mistake of not carrying their darks across an object like that, and you end up with, looks like it's cut off. If you paint it on both sides, it looks like it's definitely behind there. I'm using a little of this cad red to sort of gray down my greens a little bit so they're not quite as garish. Okay. Okay, so we've got a lot of nice, interesting stuff going on over here. And I don't want to do too much more than that, but that's about right, I think. I'm just going to sort of blur and blend some of this other stuff out so that it's fairly abstract over here. All right, maybe one more spot here that could use just a little bit of greenery. See if I can change the color a little bit, and I'll keep the same color of green in there. Put more yellow in that, maybe. All right, this doesn't have to be perfect, but it's Okay. See if I can step back and take a look at that and see if it's looking like a lot of woods back there. Yes, it is. I'm doing on time, 41 minutes. Well, we've spent a lot of time on this. Probably more than I have on my last one, but that's okay. I'd rather take a little time and get a nice, interesting painting. Picking up some blue here, getting a dark, still got work to do back here. So we'll start putting in some of this big trees that are back here using some dry brush. And dry brush means you just don't have a lot of water on the brush. So when you scrape it over this paper, you end up with these nice little things that look like tree branches or pine tree needles. Change the color. Don't spend too much time with the same color. I'll put some other colors in there. Pick up a little red and throw in there. That's probably too much red. But we will, you can use the green and the red to counterbalance each other. And you end up, if you do enough of it, you'll get a sort of a reddish gray color. Pick up some more of this yellow. You can always come back and redo some of this. Looks like I have a lot of sort of almost opaque looking paint here from that cad yellow. Just leave it like this for now. We do have some dark shadow areas that come down. The other thing you can do is, again, when this is a certain amount of wetness, if you want to put some light streaks in it, you can take your, if you have a brush that has a tip like this, throw in a tree there and it just scrapes out the paint very nicely. And something like that, but don't do a lot of them. You do too many, it starts looking contrived. I'll pick up some neutral tint here and start sort of graying some of this down over here, darkening it, putting more shadows in. The sun's coming from the left, but we have a big set of cliffs over here on the left, and I have shadows that I want to reflect this area here. It's going to come over the water. Put some blue in there. There we go. Make sure I don't get lost here. This is the darkest areas. All right. Lighten some of this up with some clear water. And we start getting some areas that look sort of like a bank over here. There's actually some excuse me. Got a tickle in my throat there, folks. Sorry about that. All right, step back and see if I'm getting the kind of the look I want. I want to clean some of this gunk out of my palette. I have a lot of colors there that I don't need. If I need them, I can remake them. All right. Yeah, we're closing in on it. We're getting down to the water area. I'll put some rocks back in here. Maybe a couple more twigs or something in this area here like this. Okay, we have some branches that actually come down and fall down toward the water. All right, I don't know if I'm going to stick with this big brush. I think I'm going to keep using it because I still seem to be coming out okay. This one tree over here looks a little goofy. See if I can take some clear water. See, it'll probably make it worse, but let's see if we can lighten up some of this. Ah, there we go. Maybe that's better. Looks kind of top heavy to me. So we'll just sort of throw in some clear water and see if that helps. All right. Maybe we could have a few more, just a couple more things, and we get some of this. Come on here, violet. Maybe in this area here, we'll put in a few more. Trees of some sort. Always a lot of dead trees you see hanging around these areas that fall off into the water, so forth. Okay, now start taking a look at this water. The water, as you probably know, water has no real color or hue. It only picks up the colors that are around it, or above it, or beside it, or underneath it. So when you have a blue sky, typically you'll have some blue in the water, but if you have water over it's not very deep, over a muddy stream, it will start looking brown. So we're going to try to pick up a few of the colors here and see if we can start laying in a few things that look like the water might be coming back this way. A little, it has a roughness to it. Picked up a little bit of ochre, and it sort of greens this up just a little bit. We start getting a few green colors in here. So if you want to make it look like it's rushing water, a lot of movement, you can actually paint it wet on dry like I'm doing here. And then in areas where you want it to smooth out, you put in some clear water like this. Not completely clear, but clear enough for our purposes here. So all of this is going to be a little smoother, because we're going to try to paint some rocks underneath it. So it's a little bit rough coming in, but it's we're going to smooth it down. Using ochre and ultra blue are giving me sort of a greenish color here. And this will, because it's wet, it will blend together and make a nice soft surface. Ultramarine blue and yellow ochre. So keep it wet, and from the photograph, I don't want to go completely to the photograph, but it does have some, it's darker, more green in this area. I'll darken it down some more. The reflections are giving me some darkness here. I'm going to take some blue and just sort of glaze over my area back here to darken it down a little bit. It's these dark, sharp contrasts that make this thing sing. Really dark. Here. And it's greener on the right side than it is on the left side, so it's more. Stop, see if it looks like water. Yeah, it's starting to look like water. The other thing that makes it look like water is when you put vertical brush strokes in it, or lift out areas like this area here where we'll see these trees reflecting. And you see it filling back in because it's almost still too wet. But if I dry my brush, come back and hit it again, you'll start seeing that. This area in here is a little lighter than lighten it up, dry the brush, pick it up. So vertical streaks, either dark streaks or light streaks, either one will help tell you this is water. It's all making optical illusions here. Pull down some more dark, keep the bristles together. All right, over here on the left, let's see, we've got more gray color in the water over here, it seems like to me, at least in this area where it's more in shadow. There's more shadow here. We have an area that's very light kind of right in there. I want to try to preserve that. Soft edges, I don't want hard edges, so clear water, dry the brush, soften this top edge. So I can pick up some burnt umber and neutral tint. We've got a lot of rocky things going on over here. Some rocks in here. Some flat ones over here like this. Put some brown in it, redden it up a little bit. You can actually take your brush and get half water and half, sort of do a split thing like this. If you it didn't actually work the way I wanted it to, but you can get a lighter area at the top sometimes by taking out water. This might be a good time to bring back my card, see if I can put in a few scrapes, make it look like rocks. This gives you a nice sort of rocky feel here. Alright, we don't want to leave those rocks sitting up there without being attached to the ground or whatever, so let's put in some more strokes to look like they're anchored as part of the bank here. Alright, these rocks that are up here, I'm going to put a little purple in them, blue, make them stand out just a little bit more. We've got other rocks that are back in here that I haven't even painted yet. Change the color, make some real dark, make some brown, some purple. Rocks all along here. This is a ton of rocks, and try to keep them flat on the bottom if possible. Connect them together here. And maybe just a little more scraping. Need to connect these rocks with the greenery on behind them, so I'm going to pick up some more ochre and blue, probably more blue than ochre, and sort of putting in some more shadows here. Scraping up with the brush gives you these little nice looking weeds and junk that kind of flow along these edges. Over here we got, let's see, is that looking right? Yeah. Okay. I'll just darken this corner some more. It's really a lot of shadow here in this corner. And that shadow carries over into the water out here, even more so. I destroyed some of my rocks there, but no matter, we'll fix it. This area here, I'm going to just soften a little bit. I want to get some a little bit wrong color. Sort of an olive type color in here, maybe, some sort. Okay, come back and see if I can re-scrape some of these rocks in here. There we go. This rock here. Now the rocks underneath the water, I think I'm going to change from my big brush for the first time and maybe just see if I can get a little round brush to make some of those rocks in there. Rocks under the water tend to take on a little bit of an ochre color for some reason. This is still a little bit wet in there, but we'll put in a few little, this is just pure yellow ochre. And they're fairly flat rocks, most of these. And underneath them there's a little bit of a shadow. So I'll pick up some of my neutral tint and put a little shadow underneath these so they look rounded, don't look flat. Something like that. Maybe put a little bit of burnt sienna in there, some areas. Now they look like they're laying on top of the water. So this is my first use of this small brush. I'm going to go back and sort of put in some dark shapes under these other rocks along here so you can sort of separate them and see them a little better. Same over here on this side. I'm going to throw in some shadow areas that help separate these rocks. Got my hand in my water down here on the bottom. So this is just some details, kind of cleaning up some areas. As this dries off, we'll come back and put a little glaze, a light bluish green glaze over the top of these, and it should make them look like rocks under the water, hopefully. If not, I'll have made a mistake. Need to tie some of this together. It's not got a hard edge at the bottom of this over here, which I'm not crazy about, but sometimes you, there, I put in some more rocks, dark burnt umber. There, that starts giving me a little bit of a break in the, let's see, this one big rock here needs to have some darks under it, maybe even a few cracks and crevices. Use the big brush for a lot of things, but there are things that you need smaller brushes for from time to time. So this sort of helps put in some of these fine details here in the, you look at the trees, maybe want a few more branches up here that are thinner. Put some up here like this. Like that, have them stick out over the other. Need more dark on this right side of this tree. It's sort of not finished. Put in some angular things like this, look like shadows of other branches and tree branches, that sort of thing. All right, how we doing here? Got a lot of stuff in there. All right, just this one area here. It's not quite dry enough yet, I don't think, but I do have my handy hair dryer here, and I'm going to pull it out right now. Turn my microphone off. Okay, it should be back. Let me get my big brush, get some water in it, and just a little bit of ultra blue with a little bit of this ochre in it, sort of a greenish color. We'll see if we can put slight glaze over this area. See if it helps make it look like it's underwater. Well, if they're not underwater, they're certainly in the water. Dark down here. Too many. All right, now, the other thing I need to do, I'm getting a lot of distracting whites over here. I'm going to pick up some, just a little blue. I'm going to put a glaze over some of it as well to sort of darken it out. I want your eye to sort of focus in here, and right now when I look here, I see this stuff over here, which means it's pulling my eye from the focal point. So that means I have to darken down some of these areas, quiet them down a little bit. They're too noisy. So I'm going to just take a little blue, sort of glaze this a little bit with some. All right, that's a little better, I think. Area up here. I put a few. I didn't put any branches or any tree boughs or anything up there. Top of this tree, let's see if we can dry brush some of that stuff in right here. Tie it over there, maybe. Get some green, ultra blue. A lot of sky holes. Put in a couple different colors, a couple different shades. Some darks in there. Tie it together. All right, hopefully that won't be wrong blue. Picked up the cyan blue right there. No, I'll just use it. All right, maybe I'll put a little cyan blue over here just to give myself some balance. Take away a few of these light areas as well so we don't have too much distraction over that way. Quiet this down a little bit. All right, now, hopefully that darkening has helped your eye go more to the center. All right, I'm going to mess it up and make it worse. I'm going to stop. Hopefully now your eye goes more back to the back, under that bridge. That area is where the sort of the focal point is in back here. All right, I think that's about all the damage I can do to this particular painting. So I'll zoom back and tell you thanks again for watching. I hope you like this painting. I hope you give it a try, and send me some comments, ask me some questions. I'll see if I can answer them. And until I see you again, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Bye.